What's up, y'all? It's me, Angel B, and welcome to the Healthy and Healed Lifestyle Exchange. Here, we're going to shed light on some of the most uncommon, rarely talked about areas: trauma, therapy, and transformation. You ever been through something in life, and I mean really been through something and didn't know how to manage your way through it? Well, journey with us as we share some of our life experiences. On today's segment, I'm talking with my girl Bree about rape culture, how it's portrayed in the media, and what consent really means. Trigger warning: some of the things we discuss may be a little graphic. However, there's light at the end of this tunnel. Let's talk about it. Welcome, Bree, to the Healthy and Healed Lifestyle Exchange, where we discuss traumatic experiences and how we literally learn to recover from them. So today we're going to be talking rape culture, how it's portrayed, and what true consent really means. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Bree, tell us your traumatic experience and how your healing journey began.
So my traumatic experience has started way back when I was 13 years old. I was raped for the first time the day after Christmas by this older guy that I had a crush on. Was out to see a movie, left the movie theater, went somewhere with him. He raped me for the first time. And then he continued his assault on me under the threat that something would happen to my older brother. So like, you don't do this, I'm gonna get him jumped. You don't do this, like something, so he just had this fear, this threat of hurting my brother. So that went on my 8th grade year. Got through middle school, got through high school, praise the Lord, got to college, and I was raped again my sophomore year. I remember this distinctively because I had this out-of-body experience where like I was standing behind the couch, just watching my motionless body get like penetrated from behind. And I remember like telling myself to like get up, but didn't. So made it through my sophomore year. Junior year, I got raped again at a dorm party. But unfortunately, I don't know who it was this time. I was drunk. I remember this dark figure from behind. I remember being in a trash chute. And then the next morning I woke up and my vagina was just all bruised and beaten. So I just knew, I knew something had happened, but I just had no recollection of like who it was or what it was. But got through college, got through grad school, started my career, and now I'm here, praise the Lord.
Won't he do it? Man, you survived those experiences. For me, my rape experience happened from a friend. And it was very, very hard for me to accept that I was raped because I knew him, and because I didn't remember the situation, I was completely intoxicated. And I didn't believe that what happened to me happened. And so he ended up texting me the next day, "I'm sorry." And from then I was like, okay, what are you sorry for? Because we didn't succeed. And so I remember clearly pushing him away that night, right? And he went on to explain that no, we had sex, and he went into detail about everything that happened. However, I still didn't believe him until I went to the doctor a week later, and she confirmed, like, you're no longer a virgin. And so for me, it was hard for me to accept it was rape because how the media portrays rape. Right. I thought that it was more so like I'm supposed to be in bondage, or he was supposed to beat me, or, something horrible was supposed to happen. And because I knew him, I was like, he didn't rape me, right? So let's talk about how rape is portrayed.
Yeah, I feel like, and I'm learning now as I'm like trying to do more research on rape and consent, that a lot of people hold this one view of how rape is manifested. Like, it's late at night, I'm coming into my apartment building, and you rush me from behind with a gun to my head, and you force me down. There's this big old physical struggle, and I'm beaten. But it's not. That's one way that rape is manifested, but it's not the only way. And most people are raped by people that they know.
No. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's so crazy. I think it's important for people to know too that rape has no age, rape has no gender. What it boils down to is whether or not I consented to give myself away to you.
I believe that at the fundamental level, it comes down to whether or not you have permission.
Let's talk about consent. What is consent? So according to Webster, consent is to give assent or approval or compliance or approval of what is done or proposed by another, right? But let's talk about consent in a dating relationship.
Yeah, so like I said, I've been doing a lot of research on consent and rape, and I found this definition that I think is perfect, and I'm just going to read it to you.
Absolutely.
It says, consent is an absolutely necessary part of a healthy relationship. Consent in a dating relationship is when partners mutually agree to sexual activity. This can include hugging, kissing, touching, or sex. Both partners must be consenting. Consent is not simply granting permission for a particular activity. For consent to truly be given, it must be clear and enthusiastic. Also, just because someone consents to something one time, it does not mean that they will always consent. Consent must be given each time, and a person can always change their mind. I think that's important. Consent is enthusiastic, a clear yes, freely given, active, and not assumed. It is not consent if a person is simply giving in or has been pressured, a person feels unsafe saying no, a person is drunk or high, one of the persons is underage, or one of the persons has a position of authority over another.
Wow.
Mad detailed, right?
And very clear. I think that boils down to verbal consent and us beginning to normalize when we're in that moment saying, is it okay for me to move forward?
Right.
Is this okay for A, B to now enter, C, D, right, pun intended.
Right.
And so we have to be able to be comfortable enough to be like, okay, cool. Whenever we're in that moment to verbally even ask permission or
give
permission.
I think it's both people being very clear in their communication of what they desire, what they want, what they don't want, and what they don't desire. And a lot of people think it's like this really corny, can I do this or can I do that? And yes, that's one way, but Neo has this song that I think is nothing about consent. And it's called Say It. And the whole song is like, tell me what you want me to do to you. Say it, say it, say it. I love that song. And in my mind, he just made it about consent.
He could have, right?
You can make consent sexy. Like,
absolutely.
What you want me to do to you, baby?
Absolutely. And let's just talk. Let's talk about it, not assume. So with all of that, you've experienced your trauma from your youth into adulthood. What inspired you to want to heal through that?
It really boiled down to my desire to want to be effective and free to help other people. There was a time in my life when I was volunteering with the youth ministry at my church, and I was teetering on the fact if I wanted to be a life group leader or not. And in my mind, I was like, my life is so jacked up. There's no way I can effectively impact someone else's life. So that was really the start of me all right, Brianna, you need to get your life together so that when you do this, you will be effective and free to do it.
And so for me, I was already serving. I was serving through my misery in ministry, and I no longer liked who I was becoming. I knew that if I was to continue to walk in that trauma in the space that I was in, that I was only going to continue to hurt people, that I was here to help. And so I knew I needed to go to therapy. I knew I needed to start voicing what it is that I've been through. And so you started an organization called Liberated Voices. Tell us all about it.
So Liberated Voices just turned 2. And really we exist to be a consistent, safe space for survivors of all ages, men and women, to be loved, seen, heard, supported, and above all else, empowered to use their voice. And we named it Liberated Voices. Thank you for helping me come up with the name. Because through my healing journey, I found the most effective way for me to heal was literally using my voice. And I found the more that I talked about what I had been through and what had happened to me, the less guilt I felt, the less shame I felt, the less embarrassment I felt. I feel like survivors take on all these things that aren't ours to carry.
Absolutely.
All that guilt, shame, and embarrassment, that's for the rapist. I just came to a point where I wasn't going to carry that anymore. And the more I talked about it, the more free and liberated I felt.
Because we are overcome by the words of our testimony.
Hello? That's words.
So lastly, what advice would you give anyone who'd experienced any type of trauma, whether it was child molestation, sexual assault, rape? It could be anything, because those are just some, to name a few, right? What advice would you give them to begin a healing journey and start to overcome?
Talk out loud. Use your voice and speak out loud. And if you don't have a person, a therapist, then talk to God, but use your voice. There is power, there is freedom, there is liberation in putting a voice to what you've been through. Just talk. Talk.
And I would too add that even if you can't muster up the words to speak, begin to write it down. Like the biggest thing is being able to let it out, and release what it is that you went through. But like you said, therapy is the new wave. Like therapy is the new wave. Go to therapy. Find a therapist. Every therapist isn't for anyone, and that's a journey in itself.
Right. It's finding the right person for you.
Find the right person for you. Find someone who you confide in. So I just want to thank you so much for being a part of this healthy and healed lifestyle exchange, and just being so vulnerable and sharing your story, and how you are overcoming what you've been through.
Thank you so much for having me, Brooke.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.